Almost everything that we do online is tracked, and all these companies know everything that we click on and how we have integrated our daily lives into the digital online world. They know every little aspect about our spending habits, what we're interested in, and everything else around it. And we give up this data freely. Now, these guys at Profila are looking at changing that and flipping that on its head, where you control your data and your privacy, and then only give these brands and advertisers what data you want to give them when you want to give it to them as well. Now, in this interview, I talk with Shawn and Luke about their platform, and we learn all the different aspects about it, how the industry works at the moment as well, and how their platform is going to change that and revolutionize how privacy works and how advertising works in the world.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
I have Shawn and Luke from Profila, a really interesting project that is looking at a different way of sharing your data on the internet to advertisers and putting you in control of that data. We all know how much information is out there about ourselves, and all these advertising and platforms are mining that data and using it for their own profits, and we don't see anything out of it. So, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm really interested to dig into this one.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Pete.
So let's learn a little bit about your backgrounds first, so we understand who we're working with and who we're talking to here. So, Shawn, can you give us a little bit of an update and talk about your background, how you got into crypto and how you ended up in Profila?
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'm South African native by birth, but been in Switzerland since 2010. My background is in global telecommunications, actually, with Vodafone Global Enterprise, heading up fixed connectivity portfolios, Central Europe, Southern Europe solution architecture, but also design, delivery, and service operations across Africa is my technical background. But in 2017, we actually left Enterprise and on a mission to solve for privacy, which was quite a big project for us back then. We actually collaborated with CERN and their privacy department, which is the birthplace of the web, on understanding what the future of a safer internet could look like. And this leads into context of how we started exploring blockchain, because we were also fortunate as Profila to be a part of the contract for the web. We sat in the same room with the German and French governments and Facebook, before Cambridge Analytica, and trying to define what this whole internet economy will look like. And for us, the whole mission has always been, how does an individual, share data with a company? Because companies need data to run a digital economy, but without surveillance, and without giving up their fundamental rights to privacy. And in 2017, we did start, exploring blockchain because of its immutability, because of its governance structures and control, which tie in very closely to our mission to be able to deliver that. However, over the last year and a half, we've been fortunate because there's been so many amazing projects that have sprung up in Cardano, in the whole blockchain ecosystem, that have answered technical components. And now we are an agnostic, chain agnostic platform, but we started with Cardano and we're decentralizing feature by feature. So we really can test out the blockchain for a feature and make sure that it delivers against our mission, which is quite a bold one, but I'll pause there.
All right, that's pretty cool. And you said CERN, is that as in where the Hadron Collider is?
Correct. We spent a year of meetings going back and forth. We had a bit of a tour, and it was a surreal experience, because we sat with one of the guys running privacy department back then, was there, when the internet was created. So
wow,
it was
incredible. Really
cool to be able to discuss the philosophical side of where things went wrong, and just being in that place is quite impressive. So right. A good place for us to start our project. Yeah,
a lot of bright minds there. And it's a really,
Correct.
really, like you said, really, really good place to start your project. And Luke, what about yourself? What was your journey into the crypto space and into Profila?
Sure. So my name is Luke. Originally from the United States, but I've been in Europe for quite a long time. Now I live in Switzerland. I spent 15 years in the pharma industry, creating digital solutions for veterinarians and doctors. And then went out on my own as a strategy consultant several years ago, and did a lot of market space ecosystem analysis for clients here in Switzerland and Europe. And met Shawn 2017, 2018. First, we're talking about ecosystem of privacy, but he was just talking about all the things that I care about. I'm actually a political scientist by education, so I'm coming at this from a different perspective. But the idea of sovereignty and agency for the individuals is very important for me, and he was talking about the same things that I cared about. So I decided to jump aboard. And in terms of crypto, I'm still somewhat of a newbie, still learning about these sort of things. And for me, as thinking about our platform, thinking about the solutions we're trying to solve, crypto is a tool, and I want to see it as a tool that can be used for a lot of different things. And I think also, if we solve these problems, if we do this right, we're going to democratize crypto beyond the current audience. The idea that my mom may have a crypto wallet in 12 months seems reasonable. And so I think we can spread it beyond its current kind of early adopters into something that's much more structural to how we go about our day. And I think that's going to be one good outcome of Profila.
Absolutely brilliant. All right. So now we know who you guys are, but let's define the problem that we're dealing with here. So a lot of people are completely oblivious to the data that is being collected. Can we talk about the data and how you guys are actually working against how things are working now and using Profila as a platform to make that privacy a lot better for users?
For sure. So like that was, as I mentioned, how we started the company. And our mission is to give people agency and choice over their digital lives, which means you choose what data you share in the future. But at the moment, the surveillance capitalist world, has gone so far that, every movement on the web is now tracked, and across platforms too. And that is why the incumbents like Facebook and Google are under such severe attack, not only through the regulations of GDPR, but also through anti-competition and through their own governments. In every state in the US has actually filed a lawsuit against Google for its ad tracking practices. And it just hinges on that fact that, you have a right to decide who follows you home, so you have a right to decide who does that digitally. And we, in the last 4 years since we've been running this project, we've done a lot of research, but we've also just spoken to current tracking companies, and they're proud to show us these 400 data points that they have on 200 million Americans. No, it's ridiculous. 400 on nearly 100 million Americans, and it was, and it just shows that the mindset was totally wrong, and they didn't feel bad about it because under this current system, that's okay, because that's how we do business. And that's the only way that brands justify getting to know you. But if you look at it for a second, like your reaction, Pete, is exactly what most people, mostly Gen Zs, millennials, but also techno savvy, say, no, okay, that's just not right. I didn't give consent, but I'm also being left out of the loop here. I don't have any control over this. I get the argument often, about nothing to hide type of principle, but it's more than that. It's a principle of I want choice, but it's also a case of I'm not getting the value out of all of my information that's being shared. And that's where we started to tackle that with Profila. We did research with the University of St. Gallen here in university a couple of years ago now with their MBA students. And they actually came out with, this whole logic of, we understand privacy, but we're apathetic. Everyone's apathetic to it because there's no easy way or tool to actually fight against this machine. But at the same time, they totally understand the value of their data, and they want something in exchange for it. That was clear. The whole research came out to that. And then from there, Profila started building this platform, which in its current state is Web 2, but it's like a mashup of Instagram and Salesforce capabilities, but with no bad data, and I'll tell you why, and also with zero surveillance. And we've proven now to the market through this beta platform that we have, and through our mission in decentralizing it, that you can actually service a customer an ad contextually without tracking them at all and giving them, much, much better experience. But somebody has to stop this. And for us, the market opportunity, and I'll pause there, but the the market opportunity is this is now a $500 billion market. In another 3 years, it'll be 500 billion. It'll be close to $1 trillion in a couple of years, the ad market. But it's unchallenged in its fundamental model on how they actually gather data. We believe that has to change because of regulation and everything that I just said, but also people's desire. People are starting to wake up to the fact that this isn't cool. And those markets clashing has been good for Profila because people want privacy, don't know what to do about it, but they also want personalization because when you like something, you want it tailored to you and, you want the best experience from that brand. And in context, for us, a brand could be your doctor, it could be your banker, but it also could be Nike, it could be Rolex, it could be Formula One, whatever your preference. And we want to help you to shape that experience of the future where you're in control.
Yeah, and add something kind of on a philosophical note. These 4 data points. Well, how good really is that? We all have the experience of getting ads that have no relevance for us. We all have the experience of getting ads for things we just bought. We're never going to need a second one. And click rates are microscopic. So how good is this data really now? So the philosophical foundation of Profila is to say, well, let's not even care about that data. Let's help people develop, manage, and control the most accurate, authentic, and valuable information about themselves, a new data source, and then they're the gatekeepers. So that's really regulation's not going to solve this. Fines against Facebook aren't going to solve this. Consumer movements aren't going to solve this. We're going to solve this by making the data that lives out there less valuable than it is now. And brands eventually will see that, wait a second, why are we paying somebody else for bad data about you when I can buy the best, the gold standard, evergreen, always updatable information about you in a consensual way that's not going to make you angry? How is that not the model that we want to go for?
Exactly.
It does make total sense. And just going back to those tracking the data points, it's absolutely sad. I didn't realize there were 400 or so data points that are being tracked. Like I do know of scenarios like here in Australia, there's case studies where a company such as a supermarket chain would correlate their data with a bank as well. So they'll get that data there from a bank. Like that's insane. And then look at your spending habits based on the reward cards that you use. And they can tell if you're thinking about having a baby and then start marketing newborn diapers to you. Before you're even pregnant. It's like they can work that out. That's incredible.
Or imagine the husband's getting those ads before it's
like, what's going on here?
There were stories of there was an article a couple years ago from a woman who was essentially a letter to Google saying, you knew I was pregnant because of all these things you would get all these ads, but you didn't know that I lost the baby. And it was a real heart-wrenching of they couldn't correlate that. And so she kept getting these baby ads for the entire 9 months, although she had lost the baby. And it's horrible.
Wow.
It's math. It's not human.
Yeah.
I always use the example of I've got a goddaughter, and every time her picture's on Instagram, I like it. Then I get ads for baby stuff for weeks. So Instagram knows what I like, but they don't know why.
Yeah.
And I think we're trying to fill in the why. And also just coming to me, don't talk to me, don't stalk me.
Absolutely crazy. Okay, all right. We definitely know the problem there. So how does Profila work for a user to fix that problem? And how do I give my data in a good way to advertisers? And how does the platform work? What have you guys built?
Yeah, so let me start off there and Luke jump in as we're expanding on the core concepts. But in our research, P2, we found that the root cause of the lack of privacy isn't actually these platforms, okay? And it's a strange thing to say, but it's where brands are spending their dollar and where they're getting their data, okay? So we built a platform that will give brands, and this is the second part of our mission statement, is to give brands a better way to service their customers with no surveillance. So our business model is actually B2B2C, and we approach companies and we tell them, you've got 10 million customers, 20 million customers. how do you want to get to know them in the future? Do you still want to track them and stalk them, to try and shove content down the channel that they might be on at that minute? Or do you want to build a much more longer term, sustainable relationship, ethical relationship with them? And that's where Profila steps in, is we offer the platform to brands as an extension to their current system. So it's not a replacement for CRM. It's not a replacement for their own platforms, but it is a method for their customers to capture, as Luke said, this more authentic data about themselves into the platform. So in the apps, and we've got 2 apps in the app stores, but you can only get access to the apps if a brand invites you, because we know the dilemma of too many apps out there. You're not going to download this one app that's going to save the world. Okay, we're building and solving the problem brand by brand. So if they invite 1,000 or 100,000 consumers onto the platform, and this is our network effect, then you enjoy that first experience, which first of all empowers you. It gives you privacy rights. It gives you control of how the brand can actually talk to you, how much content you'll see from the brand, and also allows you to build this profiler. And Luke, you can jump in after this on how you build a profiler. Then, a new trusted relationship has been formed. And also it focuses much more on exactly what the customer wants. So that's how we've, decided to break down the problem, is giving consumers a way to build a data set with all the privacy bells and whistles wrapped around it and their rights. A brand subscribes to it. So data are never sold on Profila. So we never think it's an asset for you to sell. It's something that you subscribe to for a purpose and duration. The brand then gets access to that. And then on our private one-to-one channel, which is an optional omni-channel choice for brands, they can communicate content to you. And I say content because it could be an ad. It could be a note from your doctor to say, this is how you sort out the ailment on your toe. Because that is all personal data and it's all private medium of channel of choice. We're focused on the ad industry and also these retail and luxury brands, because that's where most of the problem is, okay, and where most people want this type of relationship. And this is now a viable alternative instead of going to Facebook and Google. Although they have 2 slight different targets, that's where you go and acquire a customer. But in our model, we say as soon as you are aware of this brand in your life, go onto Profila and then build a private relationship with them. So similar to walking in a store, and then I'll hand over to Luke, is I'll walk in and I'll say, I'm just browsing. The person's not going to follow you around trying to see, how much money you got in your wallet or, which shop did you just come from. But as soon as you go up to the staff and say, well, I'm interested in this product. Can you give me more details? And a dialogue starts. That's what Profila is trying to replicate. So you're only sharing the amount of data needed to close that one particular transaction. And then you build trust and value over time on the platform. But I think, Luke, jump in and just explain how we create a profiler using self-discovery quizzes.
Yeah. So, I talked about creating a better data source. Those are through our self-discovery quizzes. We've got about 40 different categories, travel, fashion, home improvement, things like that. And when you're designing quizzes for people to answer questions themselves, it's different. It's actually quite of a challenge. And we like that it's a challenge. And, the messaging to people is every answer you give, you may get achievements, you may get badges, things like that. But also, nobody gets access to those insights or the answer to that question without your consent. And so a hotel brand that knows my micro preferences, there's no way they'd ever know that without subscribing to my Profila or knowing where I'm thinking about traveling this year, because they want to jump the line. They don't want me to go to booking.com. They want to go directly to their sites. And if they have those insights, if I'm looking for, an Asian holiday in the fall, then they can jump the line on that. And I want something that doesn't have beach, and here's the pace, and all these things, all these micro preferences that observed behavior will never tell them. It's really, in many ways, these category quizzes let a brand essentially have a perpetual focus group, which are much more insightful than just surveys or market research. But also, a mature Profila you take out into the world like a passport. So the idea, for instance, we have an allergies and diets category. So imagine I'm in a restaurant and I scan the QR code for let's say we go to a restaurant together, all 3 of us. And we all scan on our phones the QR code for the menu. Well, it can cross-reference their menu with our allergies. Let's say I have a nut allergy. Let's say you're a vegetarian. And so essentially, if we looked at each other's phones, we'd have different menus because it's actually filtered it down to the things that I can actually eat. And that's a simple real-world example. Or it could be, as Shawn mentioned, walking into a store that I have a relationship with, and I've enabled kind of geo-tracking for that specific brand, and it can say, hey, great customer, 10% off anything you buy in the store right now. And I would say it's not creepy because I told them. I've told them the things about me because I trust them. Therefore, they get more of my time and attention, but only the amount of time and attention that I define. Because when I'm not thinking about the brand, I don't want to. I don't want to be subjected to that. And Shawn mentions the idea of kind of controlling the pipes, controlling communication. That's pretty radical. And it's actually, we're actually different than every other platform in that we're not trying to maximize interactions. Twitter wants people screaming at each other obscenities. That's an interaction. That's good for them. For us, we want good interactions. So if I tell a brand, hey, I don't really need anything from you for the next few months because I've got every product I need, no communication. Or Nike, you only get one offer a month from me. Or be able to say, for all my brands, everything has to come in at noon on a Sunday because that's when I feel, I want to actually participate in the commercial markets. But besides that, I don't need to be seeing ads every place and all over the place. So I think it's a path toward, the first part is in your Profila environment, you're gonna be able to control things very much. And then eventually, when that becomes the best data source, then the partnerships of saying, well, as I'm traveling around the web, if I'm on Facebook and there's a setting on Facebook that says only show me ads from brands that subscribe to my Profila. Well, Facebook's still gonna get their great click rate, probably even better. And your experience now is different than currently, where 90% of my feed is now stuff that I didn't ask for. So I don't use Facebook as much anymore besides Messenger because the feed it's just ads that I didn't ask for. And that has to change. And I think more and more people are seeing that. And you're also seeing the ratio in Instagram changing, where when I first got Instagram, which was only a couple of years ago, it was just my friends. Now it's mostly not my friends. So I spend less time on it.
All right. I've got a lot of questions that have come out of this. I'll probably work backwards a little bit here. So first off, you said a setting in Facebook where you only show ads from Profila. That would infer that you've got a partnership with Facebook to integrate in your profile data in there. How are you going to do that? But Facebook is just going to go, no, I don't think so. We're using our data so we can maximize our returns.
Technically, it's a challenge, but Luke, you give the philosophical one, and I'll explain technically how we aim to do that.
Yep.
Because again, eventually brands are going to understand that this is a better data source. So if I don't want to, besides managing my relationships and my settings and Profila, I don't want to be in there much besides that because I like being on Facebook. If the connection is only the 50 brands that subscribe to me, or the brands that are responding maybe to an anonymous buying signal, like a trip to Asia. If only those brands are able to actually put ads in Facebook for me, Facebook's revenue is still, they're actually getting more because they're getting more clicks. These are much more relevant for what I want to my experience than now. And that's the idea is Profila is your passport that comes with you and lets you manage what you experience. And it leads right into the metaverse. Right now, the metaverse is just a wild west, but if I'm traveling with the insights and the preferences that I have, all the things that I'm going to interact with are basically actually things I want to interact with. And that can also include, right now we're a relationship engine, but we want to go, obviously the next step is a marketplace where I want to discover new brands that I didn't know exist, but I want to do it in a safe environment, potentially a zero knowledge environment.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
if I've started, let's say I've gotten into archery, and I go into the metaverse and I've, with an anonymous avatar, said, I'm looking for companies that have products, services, equipment, clothing, whatever. That can be my metaverse experience or my Facebook experience or whatever the platform is, in a protected way, because the brands who are putting an ad in front of me don't know who I am because it's an anonymous or zero knowledge avatar until I decide to engage with them. Or if I want to put a buying signal in our marketplace for a specific trip, a specific time, the ads or offers that I don't accept, they have no knowledge about me. They cannot remarket to me. They cannot sell my data to anyone else. Nothing, no light leaves on the other side of that transaction. I only get the information I want and the offer that I want to interact with. Then that brand knows, because obviously I need to book a trip and credit card and such. So
I think I know how Pete's going to say now is how, because what you said is an amazing vision, Luke, and I want to jump in.
And that's right.
Pete,
that's really, really appealing to me. But like, how are you going to get Facebook to do it? How are you going to get Twitter to do it? How are you going to get Google to agree?
What we've achieved, Pete, last year was some foundational research with the University of Madrid. They've got professors there that have been researching Facebook and the ad industry for 15 plus years. So they know the ecosystem backward. Our research is zero knowledge advertising, and it is a privacy preserving future for ad tech. But in summary, it's a third-party cookie replacement system. Okay, and what it promises is that it can deliver enough contextual data to a brand, but guaranteeing full anonymity to the user, but still giving the brand enough information to be able to target, which is, it solves those two problems. I want privacy, but I want personalization. So the research is quite substantive, and it's being peer reviewed at the moment, but so far from experts from the ad industry who have read it, we are actually going to be building this, the first iteration of it in the next 6 months, which is very cool, is scalable across the whole internet. Okay, so why we're excited about it, and the closest comparator to us is from a technical side is Brave. It's a browser. It cuts out cookies. It blocks ads, and but it's all confined to their browser, and it's what we call more passive zero knowledge, because it's protecting you in one environment, and still there you're seeing contextual ads. You don't choose which brand it is, but based on what you search. With Profila and our zero knowledge strategy, yes, one channel will be through our platform itself. So in the app, you can control the whole experience, and you'll be fully anonymous. You can say this brand gets to send me one ad based on the data I've shared, but only once a week. But then behind the scenes of that is we're linking this whole infrastructure to the real-time bidding world and to the real-time advertising world. So that if you decide that, yes, I love this brand so much that, hey, I don't mind seeing ads for it wherever I go on the internet. Okay, so if I go to a news page and I want to read their articles, and they get funded that way, why not see content that I am still interested in, versus ads that somebody's just paid the most to shove in front of you. And that's how the system is designed to integrate into browser extensions, into as an SDK into any other third-party app. That's why in future, we'll ask by watch manufacturers and so on here who've got their own relationship with consumers to say, how can I use the power of this profiler, controlling my data, my identity, and link it into my own ecosystem, my own app, and then eventually into the individual brand website itself. So you'll be able to log in with Profiler, and then the website experience will be personalized to you based on your profile. No cookies needed. Okay, so that's a big change.
That totally makes sense there. So to be able to customize your experience on a website, amazing. Other third-party platforms integrating Profiler as well, so that ads can be displayed on there too. So like if I build a lot of affiliate marketing websites, and my own I have a cooking food blog. Yes. So, so I have Google ads on there. Yep. I know AdWords back to front, SEO marketing. It's lifeblood of my last 15 years. So I could see how that would benefit there. So integrating the profiler so that the correct ads will go through and hopefully get better click-through rates. Cool.
So you still keep your revenue, for example, but you want to increase your click-through rates. And our ad tech guru in the team is Mikko Kotila. And just yesterday we were architecting, this solution with a daemon team, and the whole impact of a cookie is it just stores a bit of data on you, but it's not controlled by you. Okay, and that's the difference about Profiler, is you control what that cookie would have stored and how I share it with your cooking site. So that, I can see products that maybe I can even buy down the road from me, which will have a much higher engagement, a much higher click-through rate potential for you as the end site owner.
The other interesting thing that you said was a Brave browser, and I'm an avid Brave user. I use it on my phone. I use it on a desktop. I use the incognito private sessions as well, as much as possible. I have Ghostry as another ad blocker, just in case Brave didn't pick up an ad. I also have a VPN that I use. So I'm trying to disconnect everything, and I don't use Facebook. So I'm probably an edge case. Maybe I'm not. But how how does the platform connect with me, considering that I've opted for no ads whatsoever? I don't get ads on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I get nothing.
Yeah. So we love that case because, we built Profila for, first of all, everybody. So if you're a privacy fanatic and you just want to use our platform, remember on our app, you can assert your rights with any company. We've automated that process. So you've got legal governance. That was our first use case we've implemented on Cardano already, is that there's an immutable record of your decision with that brand and your rights exercised on the Cardano blockchain, once you exercise it, so that you can always have recourse against these companies. So we want to help you assert and manage your rights itself. But in that scenario, think of brands differently. Okay, we're not just in it for ads. Okay, that's one communication type. But in your life, with the 50 to 100 brands, which research says you've probably got in your life, every now and again, you might want Lego, and I can see Star Wars behind you. You might want Star Wars, to actually, or Discovery, or to send you the perfect update, on what's coming with the next Mandalorian episode. And because you're a fan, you get exclusive content and exclusive access to offers. But you don't want that out in the big wide world. And you want the preference, because you've shared the perfect data set securely, and they can then match you with the perfect product for your market. So that's an ad and it's an offer, but it's also extremely valuable to you. Okay, so we don't look at MAUs and DAUs, monthly active users. We look at retention and lifetime value of you as a Star Wars fan. Okay, and that's our metric. So if we can prove to the manufacturers of those products that you only sent one ad, but it was 100% conversion because it was the perfect placement of a product for you, because you told them, I like this new product, that's what they want. Then you will look at that content. Okay, and Luke's even designing now no more endless scrolling feed. It's much more of an immersive engagement. So you can spend time on that piece of content, because you wanted to see what the new Mandalorian helmet would look like, and you wanted to then see if you could buy the toy around it. But in that same breath, I'd like to say that, this channel is also about how do I exchange data, possibly with my bank or with my doctor or with even another family member privately. Because we've been asked for this use case so many times, is I love my wife, I know her so well, but damn, I always forget her sizes, so I want to buy her something sexy, but I forgot, But if she'd shared her Profila with you, one-to-one intimately in a system that's decentralized and proven, not even Profila can see that data, then you're off the hook. Okay, so it's much more deeper than just ads. If you're having that relationship and discussion with your therapist, and they tell you, read this article, here's some support for you, that's also communication, but it all needs personal data that's going back and forth. And that's why in the America, especially, everyone's afraid of telling their insurance companies what's wrong with them, because they get penalized, because they buy the data and then they track, you search this and that, maybe you deserve a higher premium. And we want to get away from that people can start trusting a relationship and sharing data with the right companies in exchange for value. So in your use case, if you block every single ad, but then you only buy one Star Wars item a year, that's fine. Star Wars wins and you're a happy customer. That's our business model. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. That works for me. The other question I had around that, like it sounds like at the moment, I have to use the app to see ads. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
At the moment, we've built that as a first channel, but the architecture that we will build out after funding, and we're doing a private round now for our token and the community supporting through the funding. In the next 6 months, we will have a web version of this available, which will use web extensions. So we're going to start integrating into your browser experience. We will be working hopefully with Brave and others, because our advisor Miko knows the team very well. He was part of their earlier projects in going to crypto in the first place. And he understands what worked and didn't work for them in the ad industry. Okay, and that's what we're trying to resolve. So we'll definitely partner with those ecosystems. But yeah, phase one, it's in a dedicated platform and app, because it's easier for us to prove the model. But the whole vision behind that zero knowledge is that it becomes extensible to the whole web, okay, and to all digital actually.
But even beyond proving the model, when we talk to brands, we say to them, right now they're competing in a very noisy environment. Either you're email inbox or Instagram. Basically, they're an obstacle to what you're actually there in those platforms to do. So if in Profila, if a brand subscribes to you and you know whatever the amount of content you're allowed to them, that's a very noise-free environment. You're there just for them. And as Shawn said, an immersive experience. It's not an endless scroll. Every kind of brand moment or post, whatever, is full screen. You can interact with it and get on to the next one, but it's not if it's scroll, but it's a quiet environment. Because when you're in the app, you are the center of the universe. There's nothing social, and everything you're seeing is only the brands you've let in the door. There's nothing else. There's nothing else you didn't ask for. And so we don't want something to be an addictive app where you're in there hours a day. That's not what we're trying to design. But it's like, okay, now I want to be doing this. Now I want to be following the content about a topic that I'm interested in. I'm going to go to Profila and just be focused on that for a little bit. Instead of going on Facebook to see what my friends are doing and get bombarded with ads and distracted from that.
Yeah.
So and if it comes in Profila, you know it's important. Sorry, Luke, to jump in there, but when we spoke to brands and some of our customers, and this is what we want to get right, Pete, and it's hard because it goes against this instant gratification. But if I've had to wait a week, because I told Disney I only want to see one ad a week, or I only want to see something when there's an offer that matches my profile. When you get that alert, that's going to be a cool moment because the anticipation is built up, that I'm now getting something special, designed just for me. And that it brings back some of that scarcity. It brings back some of that, patience and desire for something awesome, which is counterintuitive to the current market. But yeah.
I'll give an example that I want to manifest. This may be my goal for Profila. I love Legos and I love Star Wars, but I get 3 emails a week from Lego about everything they sell, and my only choice is to unsubscribe. So they could measure that, but they can't measure my annoyance of getting 3 emails a week. But if they subscribe to me and they knew all I care about is the Star Wars stuff, if you every quarter just send me a special offer for the most expensive Star Wars kit you come out with, you're going to get more money from me, and I'm not going to be annoyed with you anymore. That's what I want out of Profila. Once I do that, everything else is gravy.
All right. I do remember a few years ago, I built out a video platform, and one of the features that I had to build into it was your preference in terms of what videos you want to see. And the amount of preferences that we put into that platform was so granular, but it gave the user a really good experience. It made my life a headache building it out. But yeah, I can see that user experience tailoring out and being really, really cool. And Luke, you said a little bit earlier in this interview about that geolocational tagging of users. I just thought of a really cool scenario, like you're going out to lunch, you go into a food court, and maybe 2 or 3 of those stores there are actually a part of Profila and advertising. You walk in, get a couple of offers, and you can flick and choose, and that will help you decide what you're going to have for lunch.
And if you're the kind of person who doesn't like that, you never turn it on. Everything's always off by default, and you're enabling it if you feel comfortable about it, and you can always kind of revoke that. And so I think the geo stuff people think is creepy because how it's been used is creepy. But if I feel like I'm in control of the pipes there, I'm in control of what comes in, and it may just be a certain city that I enable this for, then that's people will appreciate that more than kind of being surprised by getting an offer because I just walked past the store. Because then it's like, ooh, how do they know that? Is it listening to me? And like most startups, we're building something we want ourselves. And I always think I'm also designing this for my mother, who's not very savvy, but has the same kind of things that everybody has, and wants to feel protected and empowered at the same time. And there just aren't tools out there that do it because their incentive structure is different. The incentive structure of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter are simply different, and we're being very conscious of actually defining our own incentive structure. I wrote an article called, "We want to paint ourselves into a corner." We want to be very vocal about the things that we will never do. So if we ever violate those principles, we're done. We're done as a company. Because we think the most profitable, sustainable business model is putting people in control and letting them control every aspect of this. Again, the idea of metronome, which is the name for the idea of defining how much content can come in, that's not in our revenue interest short term, But if our mentality of our incentive structure is more good relationships are good for everybody, including Profila, then that's the business we want to be in.
Okay. There's also another aspect, like what happens if I'm completely happy with not getting any ads and not having any relationship to any advertiser? Like, what is the incentive for that type of user to actually use the platform?
Well, I think you still buy things from brands. I was just talking to a colleague a little bit ago. I said, if you have 5 brands in your life that you love, and you only want to deal with them. Now, of course, we can't control necessarily right now everything on the internet, but in the Profila scenario, your life is just with those 5 brands, the 5 brands you love. No one else, a brand can't come and query the database of all Profila users and find you until you would do essentially a signal, either connecting with a brand or putting something in the marketplace saying, I'm interested in the topic or whatever. Nobody knows you're there. And when we talked to a hotel chain recently, they said, why am I going to bring my customers on there so my competitors can steal them? And we said, they can't see them. Your competitors can't see them unless those people say, yes, I also want to connect with this other brand. So the ability to actually stay private from default and only decide you want to be publicly known or within the platform is completely your choice. Now, whether that extends outside of Profila in the future, that's a great goal, but some things are not completely in our power. But again, once people get a taste of this and go, yeah, wait a second, this is how it should always work. I was sitting with a professor yesterday. We were talking about a project, actually a Fund 9 proposal that we're putting together. And I was kind of explaining the model, and she says, of course, this is how it should be. Why isn't it like this now? But we just, Facebook slowly evolved from what it was to what it is without us really noticing. And then the stories come out, but you can't, if you tear down a building without a clear definition of what's going to replace it, you end up just building the same thing. And so we can talk about what these platforms do wrong, but until a better paradigm is defined, and that's what we're trying to do, is define an entire paradigm, not just a product, not just a set of features, but an entire paradigm, then it'll be like, oh yeah, of course. And so, we live now in a Ptolemy world where the sun revolves around the earth, and all the smartest people think the sun revolves around the earth. And then Copernicus comes along and says, actually, I've got some better answers to the observation, to the questions we're seeing. And it took some time because there's vested interest in the former paradigm, and that'll be a challenge for us. But at some point, it's like, well, of course the Earth goes around the sun. Of course, there's no way to argue with that. But the smart, the same smart people, before were too invested in the current paradigm.
A short, quick answer to exactly what Luke said, Pete. We don't mind if you don't see ads, but in your life, you're going to have to share data with some company, even if it's to deliver a product to your home. And on Profila, you'll be able to do that the most securely, because with our decentralization, strategy and tech that we're building, it'll be the safest place for you to share data, because you've got recourse, you've got the whole privacy auditability behind it, and we're building in mechanisms for you in the future to even pull your data back. So when we pitch to brands, they're saying, do you actually want to hold this data in your server, or do you want to just use a just-in-time principle and use the insight, and get the job done? De-risk yourself totally from holding data and just delight your customer. So in the future, it'll be the safest place for you to control your data asset. And what we're really trying to teach people is how to wield that asset, not make a couple of bucks out of it, like a lot of the competitors are trying to tell you you'll make. In the next 10 years, your data will be valuable. But if you don't know how to manage this experience that Profila has built on saying, hey, I need something from you, you need some of my data, you can have it for a short term, but I want value back. Then you start managing, that asset in exchange for value, and you've got the bargaining power. At the moment, we just throw it all out there, because we're being tracked everywhere, and we search everything on Google, So that's got to change.
And you said 2 things there. One, the just-in-time style of data, which is absolutely fantastic, because that means like companies like Facebook can't hold your data. There's no one mining that data, all those legal suits disappear, right?
Absolutely. And that's what the regulators want. They say that's data minimization is part of that technique. And they're right, because we're doing some research too with students and so on around, well, I'm in the travel industry. What data sets does the whole travel industry need to be able to deliver a great service to me? They only need a few. They don't need everything else. So the big data rush, is over. It's like the gold rush in the old days. Everyone was finding a lot of gold and data, but now to find a decent amount of gold or diamonds, you need to do some hard work. And that's where we're saying, come to the customer, who owns the diamond, and just ask them, can I use it for a couple of minutes? And say, well, yeah,
okay,
sure. And then just give it back to them, so it's their asset, it's their tool. And some of these brands that have been fined, like big hotel chains, they're realizing we don't need all of this data because it's going to cause trouble for us. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pay for data engineers, and they cost a fortune.
Correct,
It's why do you want to do that? Like,
but what's awesome in our model, Pete, just to throw in that we're also speaking to a lot of AI groups, and some significant one big project we got funded for in Switzerland. It's the IP is worth about 1 million francs, but the funding is of 500,000 to the university. And it's building a neural AI network for analyzing big data sets. We're using it on privacy data sets at first to give you near real-time answers to privacy questions. But that whole technology, which is quite advanced, will be used on your data, but for you. So your profile over the next 5-10 years will benefit from the same technologies these big enterprises have, but to keep mining your own data and giving you analytics to say, this could make your data more valuable. This combination of what you did 3 years ago versus now is a trend that another company would like to see. So we're building all of these same capabilities, but for you, the person. But that's why our decentralization is so important, because if the governance of that even stayed in Profila, and we got bought out, then you get corrupted. And that's our whole mission, is to make ourselves incorruptible by decentralizing these core engines, so that nobody has control of it other than the community and the person.
Freaking amazing. Okay. Now, you also said one thing a little bit earlier as well, and make a buck out of your data as well. So there's other platforms that are doing that. So you can sell your data to advertisers and you earn rewards or something. Are you guys doing that as well?
So we're different in that they're all using your third-party data for a second third-party data. At the moment, we only focus on zero-party data. So you have to create this profile itself, and then a brand subscribes to it. So remember, it's never sold. In the other platforms, you're selling it, and the data asset becomes the brands, or it becomes the data aggregators. We're taking a model on pure, clean, new data, and it's actually excited some big global advertising agencies because they want pure, clean, new data. Because as Luke said, are you who you are on Instagram? No, you're not, actually. So we're all faking it out there. This data set will be the purest, newest. And that's what we lease to brands at the moment. Over time, we might allow you, if you wanted as a community, to bring in first-party data. So let me bring all my MasterCard records, my Fitbit records, into my own environment, because that makes my profile richer. And then I can decide if I then allow Nike to analyze my running style. At the moment, they're doing it the other way around. And like your Pelotons and so on, they capture all the data. In the future, it will all be captured in your Profila, and the architecture we have will allow you to do that. But then with that privacy wrapped around it, you're the owner. And then you can say, well, Peloton, I bought the device, but I don't want your analytics service. I just want the device. So you can then decide to sell the data or lease the data in our model to another company that does a better job of analyzing your data. We find out very quickly from our researchers that the current model of pooling data in the market and trying to get users to resell it doesn't work. There's about 20, 30 startups that have tried over the last 3-4 years. The business models are not working because there's no two-way incentive. I don't know how to sell my data. I'm sitting on 4 petabytes of data from Google. I don't know how to sell it. Who's the buyer? Do I just then sell it to data aggregators? I'm fueling the current bad system. So we try to change that totally, Pete, in saying, no, that like Luke saying, that data becomes more irrelevant every month. Actually, data sets that are 6 years or 6 months old are almost irrelevant. And most of that data in ad terms, which you'll understand, is a lag indicator, because tracking never catches up to your brain. It only knows what you did last click. And even Google admitted in their research algorithms that they don't know the context and they don't know the relevance. That only the human brain can currently do. But AI is getting spooky, and that's why we want to stop this behavior now and turn that model around before it goes too far.
Okay. It sounds like the user would have to keep their profile up to date on the platform, though, and with the most concurrent data to provide all these advertisers. So
correct,
and that's one of the things when we define the self-discovery quizzes. Each question has metadata of, for instance, how often should this question be asked? Because our travel preferences change over time. But also another additional metadata on a question is who should never see this question. If your profiler says I'm a vegetarian, we're not going to ask you a question about how you want your steak cooked. That's irrelevant for you. So we're trying to get really, really smart about giving you, and also a very gamified experience of answering questions, and just make it easy. And also the idea, the trust of, okay, the insights that come from this are only going to be seen by the brands that I care about.
That's some of the token model we have too, is we know it's a new behavior, Pete, but we're incentivizing people to help them build the most authentic version of themselves online and to maintain it. And that's the behavior change that when we spoke to the students, they know their data's got value, and now we're giving them a tool with a bit of training. And look, it's an asset. Okay, so you've got to be responsible. If you want to monetize it for value from a brand, then get used to keeping it up to date and relevant. If you don't want to and you want to go into a black box, we're also fine with that. But if you want the best service from the brand that you love the most, they need the right contextual data. Otherwise, they're going to go back to tracking you. All right, and that's the new dynamic in the market. And we found from our alpha trials nearly 18 months ago, 24 months, people love doing surveys, but the data just goes off into the ether. In this case, you'll be doing self-discovery assessments, once a week, once a day. And even on the ads that come through, we're popping up little like quick answers, sentiment answers. All of that goes into your profiler. Okay. And we're gamifying that experience so that it becomes engaging. And then we believe, once you start seeing the value of, I shared that with Disney, now I've got the perfect Star Wars experience, I'll do that again,
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
Really, really cool. The other side, so we know a lot about the platforms, like the ad platforms like Facebook. You need to engage with them, and with the users, like the incentive of setting up a profile. That's fantastic. What about the advertisers? How are you finding that at the moment, engaging with advertisers to sign up to the platform to engage with users? Like from my point of view, I'd as an advertiser, I'd expect to see like X amount of users on the platform with some sort of preferences, but I can't see those preferences. So how do I know if I can subscribe to it? I'm assuming there's a cost for advertisers as well. So how they know they're going to get the best value for their investment through Profiler?
Great question. And so we've spoken to a lot of these global brands, and they see us in two ways. Okay, one is they know they're doing something wrong in the market. So when we guarantee all the privacy controls, that's cool. And if we can give them contextual data about existing customers, and this is where I want to be clear now too, we're not an acquisition platform. So a brand will invite their existing customers, and only the customers who have joined the platform and have shown intent for this relationship will then receive communication. Okay, there is a point in time where we will become acquisition and that marketplace will open up, once we've got a million consumers on. But we overcame that chicken and egg scenario by going B2B2C. So when we spoke to a bigger energy drinks company, with wings, they have millions and millions of consumers, but they don't have a direct relationship with any fan. Okay, and that's a massive difference. So for them, the upside was they look at WhatsApp groups and they follow trends and so on. But for them to be able to actually communicate privately with a fan of, maybe the elite diving, that's their preference. They don't know how to do that yet. And that was the benefit of there's a private channel dedicated to the products I sell to a community that's a fan base of me. They also sent the platform to their headquarters in Austria, and that the legal team came back and said, this will make you compliant in Brazil. So that was a massive tick for us. But to come back to your question, the advertisers do see us as an optional channel. Okay, and that came from one of the largest ad agencies in the world. But they were more excited about the new data source, okay, because everyone knows better data equals better ad conversion, okay, because if you've got better data, you can target better. And then the ad conversion on whatever channel. And that's one thing about Profiler. We're not greedy. Okay, if you say I still want to see emails from Disney and they don't advertise on Profiler, we're okay with that. Okay, because our mission is to give you that choice and that freedom. But as Luke said, we believe there's a space to go to when you want to get serious about buying something. I don't want to go and get serious on Instagram. I want to go get serious on a private channel where I get treated like one of the best customers. And I don't know if you know Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway and their podcast. I'll send you one of their recent ones where, you know, they were moaning around customer experience and privacy, exactly what we're talking about. And they said, I don't understand why Apple still doesn't get it right, you know, because I go to their store, they don't know me. I'm Kara Swisher. I've bought 100 devices, and they should walk up to me and say, hey, Kara, but with my consent, because I told them so. And here is the latest device. And when I go to their website, I'm still seeing 10 devices that I bought before. They should only be showing me new devices that I want, you know, in the future. There's no personalization out there, yet they're tracking us endlessly. And that's where advertisers are wasting so much money. In the zero knowledge advertising research, an upside to is we get rid of fraud. Okay, and 40 to 60% of ad revenue is actually fraud through the bots and clicks. Because this system has a blockchain component in it, which sub-millisecond we're tracking, you know, the interaction, but with anonymity, and then we can prove that Pete saw this ad because it was one of his preferences, and this is the brand who delivered it. Both of those are anonymous, but it is audited. So there's a lot of upside for the advertisers to go this route. But I was amazed on 4 to 12% click-through rates. Our North Star is 100%. Okay, because if you're seeing, like I said, that one ad and you click on it because it's the perfect ad, that's a brand's heaven. Okay, so they don't want to send millions of ads, to be honest. They want one perfect ad, and if it converts, great. And that's what we're after. And no, they're slowly coming around to us, but some of our engineering is how do we transition them now into this new world? So we're not doing a big bang. You have to change your whole systems. And phase one of our zero knowledge advertising system will actually integrate into the current real-time bidding world. So that scenario I said earlier means, well, I just visited this car company. I like them, so I don't mind seeing more ads from this car company on other websites, which means for a while we'll still use third-party cookies in the ecosystem, but at least you've given rights to those to say, show me this particular piece of content. And then phase by phase, we'll transition them out totally. Wow.
Ad tech is it's quite an industry. I love that. Okay. That totally makes sense from an advertiser's point of view now. So that's absolutely brilliant. Now, this sounds like quite a complex and a lot of things to build. Like, how big is your team?
Yes, at the moment, there's three core founders. It's Luke McHill and myself, but we've got Ipek Sahina, who's our chief operating officer. We've got Mike as a CMO and Roger as a CTO. But behind that, we've got about 6 people in managers, in community managers, and also marketing. And we're actually rebuilding our dev team at the moment because we've taken the Web2 platform as far as we can with a team of about 6 devs. But we're restructuring that now for building out the Web 3.0 version of what we have. So yeah, it's about a team in total of 15 to 20, but it fluctuates based on phase of the company.
Decent sized team. And I heard that you're teamed up with M Labs as well for part of your Cardano and blockchain development side of things. Is that correct?
Correct. So they're a strategic partner for helping us, deliver on these Catalyst funds as we skill up ourselves, because Haskell and Cardano is not the easiest environment to build on, but we believe in the vision and mission of Cardano. That's why we've been with them for some time now. So yeah, they're one partner, but we'll be introducing 2 more, and our key partnership with the research universities, is also a technical partner on helping us scope and run POCs and actually build out the infrastructure.
Wow. Okay. So 15 staff, you're working in collaboration with multiple different partners to try and build out the platform. How on earth are you funding it? You mentioned Catalyst, but Catalyst isn't like a huge amount of funding. This is, I'm assuming, in the millions. You need 2, 3, 4 million, 2-year burn rate. Like, how on earth are you funding this?
Great question, Peter. Up until now, to be honest, it's been a lot of bootstrapping and angel funding. Okay, so the core 3 team, we've pulled a lot of strings in our personal lives, and it's a mission startup. So we've been doing it for 4 years, and 5 years, and pivoting a couple of times based on exactly what customers have told us. So to date, we've only raised about 1.3 million in equity, and we've got this far with that. We've got some grants from Microsoft and other institutions that have helped us along the way. But now we're doing our first big funding round at the moment, which is a private token round of about 5 million 3.5 million that we're raising. We closed a pre-seed round already last year, which we raised 800K. And that's helped us, get the exposure, get the marketing going, get awareness, and actually launch the token conceptually to the market. But now the private round will give us the funding to actually build out phase 1 of the platform. And then when the market is ready, we know it's going through a tough time now, then we'll launch the token through an IDO with OccamFi, which is also a Cardano platform. Hopefully after the summer, because we think things will bounce back. But the community supports us. So yeah, we're also not one of those that want to go out and currently raise, millions and millions and millions, because we want to be wise about every dollar we spend, to deliver something back. But that's the current raise, and we're open. We've got a lot of interest, even in this hard time, from tier 1 VCs, crypto and equity. So in parallel with that, we've got a 2 million equity round going at the same time.
Okay. Definitely a lot of funding there, but I'm quite impressed that you managed to build out a MVP with 1.3 mil and have a decent sized team. So that really goes to show that you're managing the project well, and it's going through like a decent burn through rate to actually get to where you are now. So VCs, equity people, they'll see that, and you'll raise that money for sure.
Hopefully.
Easily.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that leads me on to the actual token itself. It's called Zeke token.
Zeke, yeah.
Zeke. Okay,
that's the nickname for it. Yeah.
How is that used in the ecosystem? So obviously you're selling it, but like how you're selling it as a fundraise, but how does that work into the platform? What do I do with it?
Cool. I'll give you the rundown now. So it's actually the zero knowledge token that ties into our theme of everything zero surveillance, zero party data, and zero knowledge advertising. Our North Star, by the way, is when somebody out there cracks zero knowledge proofs, we want to be the first to adopt it because that will be the holy grail for our platform. But the zero knowledge token Zeke has 4 key functionalities that we're launching with. One is a reward allocation. So holders, like in Catalyst and the fund, if you're holding tokens, you get to vote for certain features, but also if you're holding tokens, you get certain privileges. So in Profila and with the Zeke token, if you're holding Zeke, you'll get reward back for the success of the platform. So as we grow with traditional ad revenues and business coming in, a percentage of that goes through a transaction fee, and a percentage of that transaction fee will go to current token holders. So it's like a charge tax for your initial investment, into helping us build this, and it's some payback, but through a fair and legal mechanism. So it is like a reward tool for existing holders. Because in our model, we split revenues 50-50 with the consumer, but on each and every transaction, there will be a platform tax, similar to gas, but much cheaper. And that will go back into the current token holders pot, and some of it into the ecosystem. The second is community governance. So that's closer to the Catalyst type of project, where the community in future will decide what features we roll out and what we build next. Okay, so the more tokens you hold, the more voting power on which direction we take as a company. The third is the gamification. As Luke mentioned, we're asking people to do new things here, build a profile, keep it honest, assert your privacy rights. So we're gamified that in like a Duolingo type model, where you can level up and you can either buy your levels with tokens, and you also get incentivized for completing certain levels by us or in future by brands. Okay, and then the idea is if I'm a level 10 snowboarder, because my profile is up to date and I've achieved those milestones, then all the companies around the world, will say, well, this is the perfect model for us. Let's give exclusive offers only to level 10 snowboarders on Profila. Okay, because they've got the perfect data set. And that's the conversation we're having with brands to make sure that, the value exchange is on both sides. So that will be a lot of gamification through self-discovery assessment and quizzes, and building out your data in a way that's meaningful for companies going forward. And then the fourth is the medium exchange for payment. So as I mentioned, we do take fiat in and we pay fiat out. So if people want raw cash, we'll deliver it through Stripe if it's available in their region, because Luke's mother might just want a few dollars. But if you take the payment in Zeek, then we'll give you up to 60-70% of the revenue rather than 50%. And if you stake then with us, and we're looking at a couple of staking pool partners out there because we believe in the partnership and then spreading our ecosystem, then we'll give you higher percentages. And obviously that helps with the liquidity within the platform itself. So those are the core four that we're launching with, which have been received quite well by the VC and tokenomics community. But as you can imagine, there are a lot more that will evolve because that ad ecosystem is quite broad. But one cool one, which is coming up in our zero knowledge advertising platform, is that we've got a peer-to-peer model which we'll implement, so that you're helping protect your buddies, by masking the IP address. So the ad in future will bounce through a peer-to-peer network so that your IP is never traceable by the real-time bidding world. So being part of that, being part of that peer-to-peer network, you'll also be incentivized, with Zeek token in the future because you're helping protect each other. Okay, so there's some cool use cases we've got for the token as it evaluates. But that's the core. Everything that we design in the platform, every feature is considering, where can Zeek flow through that, because we see it as the fuel for the new ad economy, and the holy grail is obviously once brands and brands have already told us that this could replace their loyalty programs. So we see Zeek becoming something that brands can use to incentivize you to take the right actions with them responsibly. Look after your privacy, share the right data, give you rewards through the token, and then hopefully even trade tokens back for their products and services.
Amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's the coin of the realm. It's the simplest way to say it. It's the currency of the platform.
Okay. All right. So last question for you guys. How on earth do we get started? Well, everyone's listening to this. They're probably pretty excited about it now. Yeah. What do we do next?
So please, just follow us on the Telegram. It's Zero Knowledge Token. There are a lot of our announcements and incentives will be popping up. The private round is open now, so we're open to individuals and institutions who want to get involved early. But we will also, closer to the IDO launch, which is a public launch, be releasing the app to the community. You'll get an invite code. You'll be able to be the first ones to experience the app with some trial brands on there and actually help us. We'll be incentivizing for debugging. We'll be incentivizing for giving us features. And that should all be coming post the summer, should the timing in the market be right. But most importantly is just join us, follow our Catalyst projects, give us feedback, on critique on what we're building and how we're building it, because we're building this for you, Pete, and for everyone else who's listening. And we want to be kept honest, and if we're doing anything which sees us slipping into like an older model, that could corrupt us, call us out, and we will make the change. We're fortunate we got Bullish Dumpling and Hosky on as community advisors. They're our current voice of the community, and they've already kept us honest, on a few narrative points, and we change within days. Okay, so it's our model dies if we lose your trust, principally, and that's why we've done two cool things. I think we've built an experience for you, okay? But then we also want to share our revenue with you because it's your revenue, okay? So we want you to share your revenue with us by building this for you. But then below that, we're building out this key infrastructure, decentralizing it, taking ourselves out of the equation. So if you want to help us build that, technically, we need, clever people on the team. We're always looking. But if you want to support us today, then please have a look at supporting us in the Zeek token rounds. Otherwise, just chat to us in the group and give us your opinion, whether it's cool or not. That'll be amazing.
All right, so I'll check out those links and whatnot. I'll put them all in the description of the video. And I'll keep an eye on how the market is and what you guys decide to do post Q2, Q3. It's winter here for us in Australia, yes. So it's just got to keep that in mind when you say summer. So it's going to be quite interesting. I'll keep an eye out on all that and let the community know as soon as you guys plan to go on sale. I really do like the incentive for testing and giving feedback as well. It allows the users to get on the platform and engage with them in a really nice way.
Fantastic. And also our lead advisory is down in Australia too. So for our whole crypto project. So we obviously love your community there and very close to our hearts, across the world. But we're launching global from day one. And we really want different parts of the world to give us critique on what works for them or not. But thank you, Pete.
Absolutely, Brent. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure learning all about it. It's been absolutely amazing. I think I grilled you guys quite well, and responses are absolutely fantastic. I'm loving the platform, and this is literally the first time I've dived into Profila. I've only heard of it through Vex from Revutu when he said that you guys were funded by a little bit by them. So it's brilliant.
By them too, and by Catalyst. And next time we can talk about our NFT use cases and so on, because we've got some cool stuff happening, man. And, that one's gonna blow it out of the water. But maybe we can have another session and dive deeper in our Catalyst projects and some of the features, because they are very unique. Yeah.
Now, I really hope you guys got something out of this. I certainly did. If you want any of the references, any of the links to the project, you can find all of them on our website at learncardano.io/EP052. There you find all the show notes for this episode, all the links to Profila and everything about them as well. So please check that out. Now, if you found this interview really interesting, or if you really like what we're doing here on the Learn Cardano podcast, please consider giving it a thumbs up, click subscribe, click on that notification bell, and you hear more from me really soon. See you in the next video.
This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.